Hi, I'm Leslie Palma with Priests for Life, here with your pro-life news break. Priests for Life National Director Frank Pavone and Executive Director Janet Morana traveled to D.C. to take part in yesterday's Lobby Day on Capitol Hill. Dozens of national pro-life leaders and hundreds of activists visited with members of Congress and their staffs to call for defunding big abortion, beginning with Planned Parenthood. The leaders urged Congress to use the budget reconciliation process to cut off Medicaid funding to abortion sellers and to get behind several bills designed to protect taxpayers from having to watch their tax dollars used to kill babies. Prior to Lobby Day, the Trump administration announced it will freeze Title X family planning grants to abortion providers for 1 year. That means Planned Parenthood will lose $27 million as the federal government looks into whether the family planning money was used on DEI efforts. But the bulk of the nearly $700 million Planned Parenthood receives comes from Medicaid. An Indiana woman is suing an Illinois abortionist for allegedly leaving more than half of her unborn child in her womb after an abortion. The 32-year-old mom was 22 weeks pregnant when she traveled to Champaign, Illinois for a second trimester abortion at Equity Clinic in 2023. When she complained of heavy cramping following the 2-day procedure, the abortion business staff suggested Tylenol and laxatives, according to the lawsuit. The following day, she went to a hospital emergency room where a surgeon found half of the remains of her unborn child in her right pelvis and pieces of the child's skull stuck to her intestines. The suit also alleges that the abortionist, Keith Reisinger Kindle, was contacted by an emergency room physician but refused to provide information about the abortion, and that he perforated the woman's uterus during the botched procedure, leaving a hole the size of a quarter. A Born Alive bill calling for life-saving care for newborns who survive abortion cleared the Missouri House yesterday by a vote of 109 to 32, with 4 Democrats crossing the aisle to vote in favor and 9 other Dems sitting out the vote. The interstate war over abortion pills continues. Yesterday, a New York County clerk blocked Texas from filing a legal action against a New York doctor for prescribing and sending abortion pills to a Texas woman who forced her teenage daughter to have a chemical abortion that ended up sending her to the hospital. New York is one of 8 states that have enacted telemedicine abortion shield laws since Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022. The laws prevent abortionists from being extradited to other states or from having to respond to subpoenas and other legal actions. This is a marked departure from typical interstate practices and is another example of what pro-lifers call the abortion distortion. The case could end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. The Kentucky General Assembly yesterday overrode Governor Andy Beshear's veto of a bill that meant to clarify exceptions to the state law that protects most babies from abortion. Under a law in place since 2022, abortions are only allowed to prevent a mother's death or the permanent impairment of a life-sustaining organ. Doctors charged with violating the ban could be charged with a felony and face prison time if convicted. Planned Parenthood called the override unforgivable. House Bill 90 will immediately add to Kentucky law an itemized list of certain conditions under which doctors can legally end a pregnancy, including during hemorrhage, ectopic, and molar pregnancies. It will also make it possible for Kentucky to have freestanding birth centers. The state of North Dakota on Tuesday asked the state Supreme Court to overturn a district court ruling from 2023 that blocked a law that would protect most babies from abortion. North Dakota Solicitor General Philip Axt said the state constitution does not guarantee a right to abortion. A heartbeat law signed by then-Governor Doug Burgum in 2023 was challenged by a group of abortion sellers, and the law was blocked the following year by a judge who found it to be an infringement on medical freedom. The court did not indicate when it would rule on the state's request. Pro-life and pro-abortion advocates crowded into the Georgia Capitol on Monday as lawmakers heard about a bill that would protect most babies from abortion. The bill will not move forward this year as the deadline has passed for consideration by both chambers, but House Republicans scheduled a hearing to give pro-lifers a chance to speak in favor of it. The bill would offer protections to the unborn at the moment of fertilization and would classify abortion as homicide. Georgia already has a personhood law in effect that gives tax breaks and child support to the unborn. This would be an expansion of that law. Meanwhile, in Montana, lawmakers in the House on Wednesday voted to put a constitutional amendment on the 2026 ballot that would define personhood as beginning at fertilization. Montana voters last year approved a constitutional amendment that guaranteed a right to abortion. The new proposal is not expected to draw the support it would need from the Senate to end up on the ballot. A New Hampshire bill that would have made it a crime to transport minors for abortion without notarized parental consent has been expanded to include any surgeries, including so-called gender reassignment surgeries. The bill passed the House, but it's unclear how it will fare in the Senate and whether Governor Kelly Ayotte, a generally pro-life Republican, would sign it. Abortion is legal in New Hampshire through 23 weeks. And finally, on Tuesday, we should know the results of a race for state Supreme Court in Wisconsin that has already broken records for money raised and early votes cast. The race will determine the ideological makeup of the court, which now tilts liberal with a 4-3 majority. If pro-life candidate and former state attorney general Brad Schimmel wins, the conservatives will once again have the upper hand. If pro-abortion Susan Crawford wins, the liberal majority will be retained. Crawford once represented Planned Parenthood as it successfully challenged a law requiring abortionists to have hospital admitting privileges. Waukesha County, where Schimmel now sits on the bench, recorded the highest number of early votes cast as of yesterday. That's some of what's making news this week. Thank you for tuning in, and please remember always that life is the only choice.